Hey everyone, so what I wanted to look at today was my top 10 practice tips for beginner golfers. This stuff has really helped me. So I just wanted to share some with you. I have a few drills around putting, simply because for me this is probably the biggest part of the game. But in this video, this is a new drill that I picked up recently that I'm finding very, very helpful. And it's a half distance or 3 feet putt followed by a full distance or like a 6 feet putt. And you can do the same from 18 inches to 3 feet, from 2 feet to 4 feet, from 3 feet to 6 feet, 5 feet to 10 feet, and so on. This is less about accuracy and more about finding out the pace of the green and how hard you need to hit the ball. Very good as a warm-up before you go out on your round. The second part here is having one of these practice mats. I've got one of these at home. I think they're really, really helpful. And again, it's about helping you judge your speed as much as it is judging the alignment. You get the speed right, you're 50% of the way there. The rest is how you read the green. I think this is probably the most common thing novices and beginners do, me included, and that's thinking that we're making a good strike on the ball when in fact we are going over the top. What we need to feel happening is what I'm over exaggerating here, is the club head is going up at an angle and then coming down on the inside. This will stop that slice. Now, one common reason for this happening, and it was certainly true for me, is when I've taken the backswing, when I come to the downswing, my hips are moving first. So I'm rotating around, which means the club head would go in front of me. What I needed to do was just move my weight onto my front foot. So it's a lateral movement sideways. There you go. And this would mean then that the club head doesn't go forward, or the club doesn't go in front of me, but it actually comes more inside, an inside line. So when I take the club head back, I want the movement to go on the front foot there, and that means the club won't come in front of me, but my elbow can come inside, and then I can make a cleaner contact and avoid making that horrible slice. One of the things you've got to get right is your ball position. And this particular exercise I like a lot. So as you can see, the ball is aligned just on the inside of my back foot. And this is because I currently have a wedge and I'm pressing my hands forward to my front foot. So my hands are almost aligned with my front heel there. But if I have a wood in my hand, then the ball is aligned just inside my front foot. And if I drop the club grip down, then the club grip is on my front foot thigh. So just on the inside. So that means I've moved the ball from the back of my stance for the irons and to the front of my stance for the woods. So if I drop the grip down for a short iron, it almost will hit the inside of my thigh, and then I press my hands forwards to my front foot thigh, if that makes sense. This next tip is for chipping. So for chipping, you need to stand a little bit more closer to the ball, so you're more directly over it. Your feet are closer together and your weight is on your front foot. What you'll notice is the club takeaway is a lot steeper and it drops down onto the ball to create the chip. If your weight is on your front foot, then this will help you get a cleaner strike of the ball. Also, the bit of the club head that you're using to make the chip is the fat part. The fattest part of the club head, or the widest part, is what you need to use to make a good contact for a good chip. This next tip then is around how do I stop topping the ball? I seem to top the ball all the time when I'm off the tee. Well, the main reason for this is a lot of swaying on the backswing and on the front swing. on the downswing rather. What happens is when you sway off the ball going backwards, then you really have to be kind of lucky to get back to the same position. So you're striking up on the ball in the same place. When you sway off and then you end up leaning backwards, it's likely that you're not going to strike up on the ball. You're almost going to miss it and top it. So the way to correct this is make sure that 60% of your weight is on your front foot. And then when you do the takeaway, you keep some of that, you keep the majority of that weight on your front foot. So you take away, keep the weight there, and then move forward into the swing. But the tilt angle that you have is what helps you then strike up on the ball. So try and keep the weight forward, and then you've got less chance of topping the ball and a much better chance of hitting a clean strike upwards. So the ball flies off in the direction that you want it to rather than topping it and hitting it 20 yards in front of you. What you want to do is keep the weight forward. And this gives you a much better chance of making a cleaner contact, hitting the ball up in the air and not topping it along the floor. This next quick tip then is on ball alignment and how you align your club face up to your target. There's two components here. One is the club face in relationship to the target, and the other piece of this is how to align your feet. Now, the way to do this, I find the way to do this successfully, is to pick a target that's close to the club face that you can square the club face up to, that's in line with the target. And then what you do is you place the club face behind the ball so it's square to the little target that you've chosen in front of you or close to you. Then once you have that correct, your feet should align in parallel to that target, not pointing to the target. This is something that I found out a little bit later. I thought my feet should be pointing towards the target. That's incorrect. It should be in parallel to the target. And then your club face, when it's square to the target point and your feet are pointing in the correct direction, you should get a lot closer to striking the ball correctly. This next tip then, you'll see at my feet, I have 3 markers just in front of my feet. One is at my back heel, one is at my front heel, and one is between them. And what I try and do with my lofted wedges and up to my 8-iron, I try and keep the ball between the back 2 markers. So between the middle of my feet and the back of my feet is kind of a good alignment for me. And then from the 7-iron and up, I'll try and keep the ball between the middle marker and the front heel, and then for the woods and the driver, they'll align up to the front marker. So this just helps me visualize where the ball should be, and if my alignment's good and the ball position is good, then I should be more confident of getting a decent contact and playing a good shot. So here's a tip that I think is really, really important. When we're practicing or we're out on the range or we're doing whatever, I think we all have our favourite clubs to hit on the range. Mine, for instance, pitching wedge 9-iron and 6-iron, with a heavy preference on my 9-iron. I know my 9-iron carries about 145 yards. So when I'm playing, I always try to aim to leave myself an approach shot to the green between 120 yards, which is my pitching wedge or carry distance, and 150 yards, which is my 9-iron distance. So if I can leave myself an approach shot between 120 and 150, I'm more assured or more confident that I'm at least going to hit the green and leave myself a putt. So something really important, it doesn't really matter about getting off the tee or anything else.
from that perspective, but what you leave yourself into the green so you at least have a chance at a putt. It's another tip, and one that I try to play to. Another thing is, you don't necessarily have to worry about the distance that the pin is away or the distance that the green is away. The important thing to try and think about is, what obstacles do I need to carry, get over, or clear, or where do I want the ball to land, so my carry distance, and then play a shot to your carry distance rather than the distance of the flag or the distance of the green or whatever. What gets me out of danger, or gets me out of danger as much as possible, or what do I need to carry to be out of danger, and then pick a club that's appropriate for that. Now, in some instances, I don't know if you drive the ball 230 or 240 yards and there's a bunker at 240. Well, you probably know you don't have any chance of carrying it, so why don't you club back a club or two, so you've got no chance of actually even reaching the hazard, and that will help then. May leave you a little bit further away from where you want it to be, but at least you're not instantly putting yourself in danger, because you know you've got a chance of carrying into that that hazard or that obstruction. So it's a bit of course management, but it's also trying to plan out. So if you've got a 450 yard par 4, for example, you want to be on the green or as close to the green as you can in 3 shots. If your favorite shot is your 120 yard shot, then you want to get 2 shots, at least 2 shots to get you to that 120 yard mark, right? So 120 less 450, if you have a 450 yard shot, is 330 yards. So if you can get 2 shots to 330 to leave yourself 120 in, then you're in pretty good shape. You're there for par or bogey if you got a 1 putt or a 2 putt when you're on the green. So try and simplify things like that. Taking a driver off the tee at a 350 yard green isn't necessarily the best idea if you can get up and down with your most confident and your favorite clubs. Try it. So what am I practicing right now? What are the main things that I'm looking at for my game? Well, the number one thing is to try and stop at the top of my backswing any opportunity for the club to come forward like this. So the normal causes of it are either when you're at the top of your swing, you hit your wrists hinge over and you come over, or you start rotating your hips too early and this brings the club in front of you. How the tips that I have picked up, when I get to the top of my swing, it's about pushing the weight further onto the front leg and having the feeling like you're coming in inside. The swing is coming in on this line here. So this elbow comes tighter into your side. The club comes inside and the weight is moved over. This stops me then trying to rotate my hips and bringing the club forward and making this kind of club swing. So if I go to the top and I rotate my hips, then you immediately see the club comes around like this. And when it comes around like that, you're coming out to in, chances are you're going to have a massive slice or a big shank. So to stop that, what I'm trying to work on is taking my club head up to the top of my swing and then feeling like I'm making this move here onto the front of my foot and then bringing the club head down on the inside rather than rotating my hips too early and it's swinging round. So I'm trying to keep my hips trying to passive as far as this kind of movement's concerned until I've at least started my downswing. And this has helped me a lot because the over the top problem, I think from what I've seen and what I've read, is probably the biggest problem that beginner golfers face. You feel like you're coming in with a really nice swing and it's really strong, but actually what you're doing looks something like this. And you end up with 0 power and a slice out to the right because you're throwing the club, what they say is over the top or casting or going out to in, whatever it is. This is a really bad thing. You'll end up shanking and doing all sorts if you do that, right? So how do we eliminate that? We eliminate that by having more control over the backswing. So we're coming on the backswing quite steep, but I'm also keeping my weight over my front foot as much as I can. Then when I get to the top of the backswing, I want to make this movement, not this movement. As soon as you make that movement, you're in trouble. It still does creep into my swing every now and then, and you'll see it if you watch my videos. I still do it, but this is what I'm trying to eliminate. So I'm coming up and then in and trying to make that kind of feeling of movement. Hard to do it and talk about it at the same time. So a slower, more controlled backswing, make this movement, then come down and strike the ball. That's nice. You know, that's the shot shape that I don't know about you, but I'm really aiming for that. And then when I'm actually on the course, I line slightly differently. I don't align like I do here on the driving range. So I'd sooner see that shot shape than anything else. So if I'm getting that, I at least know that the over the top or the exaggerated over the top swing has been eliminated. And this will probably save you, I don't know, a ton of shots around. Next bit then, compression. It took me ages to figure out what people meant by compression. I heard it a lot, but really didn't understand what it meant. And there's two elements to it really. One is you got to hit the ball first, and I'll be reviewing a product that helps you tell whether you're fatting the ball, thinning the ball, and what your swing plane path is soon. So please stay tuned for that. But really, there's two things. People line up with the club shaft pointing straight at their belly, and then when they take their swing, they'll come back to the same position, almost so the club head is straight up in pointing to the sternum or to the chin. With compression though, what you're trying to do is you're delofting the ball and putting your hands forward of where the ball is when you come to strike the ball. Now, a lot of people, when they set this up, they'll press down first, so the hands already start in a kind of an exaggerated position, and then when they come in to strike the ball, the hands are a long way in front of the ball, and they're coming down on the ball, and they're compressing, they're hitting down and into the ball, and delofting the club, so you end up with that position at strike. The pros do it really well. I'm an amateur, very much a beginner golfer. Definitely have not perfected it, but my distance, I mean, when I first started, if I go back even 6-7 months ago, my pitching wedge, like 105 yards ish, that kind of distance. Now I'm learning more about compression. 125, 130 is more the distance. I didn't have a club in my bag, 150, 160 yards was pretty much all I could get out of my irons all the way up. Now I've learned about compression. My 7-iron is around 180 yards. My 6-iron is consistently around 200 yards because I'm making sure that when I'm on my downswing, my hands are in front of the ball. I've delofted the club a little bit, but it's making the feeling of striking the ball more consistent, and it feels more powerful when you do it. The other part, or the final real part of it then, is having the confidence to swing hard. And it doesn't mean, swing super fast or whatever. It's just coming through and having that feeling like you're striking it with confidence and with power, and your club head is in the right position. So that's all about the compression piece. So if I take just an almost vertical swing, if I can still do this with my pitching wedge, and you'll see, and this 99 yards, was always the kind of distance that I was getting with my pitching wedge. That's very familiar to me. That seems right. I don't know if you heard it. It sounded a little clicky, and it didn't sound like there was power in it. And it's right. It's absolutely right. So now what I do is when I take my alignment up toward my back foot, I'm pressing down a little bit so my hands are in front of the ball. Weight forward again, and I take my swing, and now I compress it. And we get a much different result. 120 yards there. Wasn't a particularly good swing, but you can see the difference. It's gained 20 yards by just having your hands advanced and using compression in the ball. So if you want to gain distance, one of the things that you need to learn is how to compress your irons. Strike the ball first and strike with compression.
Hope you enjoyed those beginner tips there from a beginner. See you next time on BazzaGolf, and don't forget to like and subscribe.